My girlfriend demanded I pay for her friends' drinks, snapping. If you want me, you pay for my whole crew. When I refused, she scoffed. Then you can find your own ride home. Laughing, I stood up and said, Funny, that's exactly what I was about to do. Her jaw dropped as I walked away, straight into the VIP section, where my future girlfriend was waiting. It was a warm Friday evening in Atlanta, Georgia. The city buzzed with energy as people filled the streets, ready to embrace the weekend. Vanessa, my girlfriend of 6 months, had invited me to join her and her friends at a popular bar in Midtown. The bar was known for its lively atmosphere and was a frequent spot for young professionals. I arrived around 9 p.m., the city lights reflecting off the wet pavement from an earlier drizzle. Inside, the bar was packed. A DJ played upbeat music, and the crowd moved rhythmically under dim, colorful lights. I spotted Vanessa near the bar, surrounded by her friends. She looked stunning, her dark hair cascading over her shoulders, a radiant smile lighting up her face. She waved me over, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Hey, babe! You made it! Vanessa greeted, wrapping her arms around my neck and giving me a quick kiss. Wouldn't miss it, I replied, smiling back. Her friends greeted me with polite nods and smiles, and I recognized a few from previous gatherings as the night progressed. Rounds of drinks flowed freely. Vanessa's friends ordered cocktails, each more elaborate than the last. I noticed the bartender lining up glasses, pouring top-shelf liquors, and adding garnishes that made each drink look like a work of art. The tab was undoubtedly climbing, but everyone seemed to be enjoying themselves. After a particularly extravagant round, Vanessa turned to me with a sweet yet expectant look. Hey, babe, can you cover this round? She asked, her tone light but with an underlying assumption. I was taken aback. While I had no problem treating Vanessa, I hadn't anticipated footing the bill for her entire group. I hesitated for a moment before responding. I don't mind getting your drinks, but I wasn't planning on covering everyone else's, I said, trying to keep my tone neutral. Vanessa's expression shifted slightly, a hint of annoyance flashing across her face. Come on, if you want to be with me, you should be willing to take care of my friends too, she said, her voice edged with impatience. I felt a surge of frustration. It wasn't about the money, it was the principle. I had always believed in mutual respect and understanding in a relationship. This demand felt unfair and one-sided. Vanessa, I enjoy spending time with you and your friends, but I don't think it's fair to expect me to pay for everyone's drinks, I replied, keeping my voice calm. She scoffed, rolling her eyes. Fine. If you're not willing to step up, maybe you should find your own way home. Her words stung. I couldn't believe she was willing to leave me stranded over this. But instead of arguing, I felt a sense of clarity. This was a red flag I couldn't ignore. I stood up, grabbing my jacket. You know what? That's exactly what I was planning to do. Vanessa's eyes widened in shock as I turned and walked away from the group. I could hear her friends whispering behind me, but I didn't look back. As I made my way through the crowded bar, I noticed the VIP section cordoned off by a velvet rope. Inside, a woman with an air of confidence and elegance caught my eye. She had been observing the scene and offered me a sympathetic smile. Feeling emboldened, I approached the bouncer guarding the VIP area. Before I could say anything, the woman stood up and gestured for me to join her. He's with me, she told the bouncer, who nodded and lifted the rope. Surprised but grateful, I stepped into the exclusive area. The woman extended her hand. I'm Olivia, she introduced herself, her voice smooth and inviting. Nice to meet you, Olivia. I'm Mark, I replied, shaking her hand. I couldn't help but overhear what happened back there, she said, nodding towards where Vanessa and her friends were seated. You handled that with a lot of grace. Thanks, I said, sighing. It was unexpected, but I guess it's better to know now rather than later. Olivia smiled, her eyes twinkling. Well, their loss is my gain. Care to join me for a drink? I couldn't help but smile back. I'd like that. As the night unfolded, Olivia and I talked effortlessly, discovering shared interests and a mutual appreciation for genuine connection. Meeting her felt like a serendipitous twist of fate, turning an unpleasant experience into the beginning of something promising. In the weeks that followed, Olivia and I continued to see each other. Our relationship blossomed, built on mutual respect and understanding. Looking back, I realized that walking away from Vanessa that night was one of the best decisions I'd ever made. It led me to someone who valued me for who I was, not for what I could provide. Life has a funny way of working out. Sometimes, what seems like a setback is actually a step forward. In the weeks following that pivotal night in Midtown, Olivia and I grew closer. Our conversations were effortless, filled with laughter and shared interests. She introduced me to her circle of friends, a group of artists and entrepreneurs who were passionate and driven. I felt invigorated, as if I'd stepped into a new chapter of my life. One evening, as we strolled through Piedmont Park, Olivia's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen and frowned. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Yeah," she sighed. "It's just my ex Daniel. He's been trying to get back in touch." I felt a twinge of unease. "Is that something I should be concerned about?" She shook her head. "No, it's over between us." "But he's persistent." I nodded, trusting her words but noting the tension in her voice. A few days later, while leaving Olivia's apartment, I noticed a sleek black car idling across the street. As I approached my vehicle, the car's window rolled down, revealing a man with sharp features and piercing eyes. "You're Mark, right?" he called out. I stopped in my tracks. "Yeah, and you are?" "Daniel. Olivia's ex." I felt my muscles tense. "What do you want?" He smirked. "Just a friendly chat. Mind if we talk?" I hesitated but decided to hear him out. We walked to a nearby cafe and sat at a secluded table. "Listen," Daniel began, his tone smooth. "Olivia and I have history. Deep history. I made mistakes, but I'm ready to make things right." I met his gaze. "That's between you and her. Olivia's made it clear where she stands." He leaned in, his eyes narrowing. People change their minds, especially when reminded of what they once had. I clenched my fists under the table. "Is that a threat?" "Not at all," he replied, leaning back with a smug grin. "Just stating facts." Over the next few weeks, subtle signs of Daniel's presence emerged. Olivia would receive anonymous gifts, her favorite flowers, vintage books she once mentioned. She dismissed them, but I could see the unease in her eyes. One night, as Olivia and I dined at a cozy Italian restaurant, she excused herself to the restroom. Moments later, Daniel slid into her seat. "You're persistent," I remarked, keeping my voice steady. He chuckled. "I know what I want." "Do you?" I stared at him. "Olivia's not a prize to be won." He shrugged. "Maybe. But history has a way of repeating itself." Before I could respond, Olivia returned. Her eyes widened in shock. "Daniel, what are you doing here?" she demanded. "Just having a chat with Mark," he replied innocently. "Leave. Now," she ordered, her voice firm. He stood, giving me a lingering look. "This isn't over." After he left, Olivia sank into her chair, rubbing her temples. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I thought he got the message." I reached for her hand. "We'll handle this together." But as days turned into weeks, Daniel's actions escalated. He'd appear at events Olivia attended, always watching from a distance. She started receiving unsettling messages, reminding her of shared memories, places they'd been. One evening, Olivia found her apartment door slightly ajar. Nothing was missing, but a single rose lay on her coffee table, a flower Daniel used to give her. Fear crept into our lives. Olivia became hesitant, constantly looking over her shoulder. I felt a growing rage, wanting to protect her but unsure how. We decided to involve the authorities, filing a restraining order against Daniel. For a while, things seemed to calm down. But the tension lingered, an unspoken weight pressing down on us. Then, one night, Olivia didn't answer her phone. I rushed to her apartment, my heart pounding. The door was locked, but lights flickered inside. I knocked, called out her name. No response. Panic surged. I called the police, reporting a possible break-in. Minutes felt like hours as I waited. When officers arrived and broke down the door, the apartment was empty. No signs of struggle, but Olivia's phone lay on the floor. Her phone on the floor was the last thing I expected. No note, no signs of packing. Her purse was still on the counter. Her keys hung on the wall where she always left them. Everything looked untouched, except her. She was gone. The cops looked around, took notes, asked the usual questions. Had she mentioned leaving? Was she acting different? Had we argued? The answer to all of it was no. They said maybe she left on her own, maybe she needed space. But I knew Olivia. She wouldn't just leave her life behind without saying a word. I sat alone in her apartment that night, staring at her phone, waiting for something. Anything. A call. A message. A sign. Instead, I got a knock on the door the next morning. A man in a tan suit and thick-rimmed glasses stood outside, holding a black briefcase. "Mark Evans?" he asked. "Yeah?" He opened the case and handed me a folder. "You've been named in a formal complaint by Daniel Amaze. Civil harassment. He says you've been stalking and threatening him." I laughed. It just burst out, because what else was I supposed to do? "He's the one who's been stalking us," I snapped. "I'm just the messenger," the man said, backing away. "You'll need to respond within 10 days. I stood in the doorway, folder in hand, heart pounding. Daniel had flipped the script. I called the detective on Olivia's case, but they said unless there was evidence of a crime, their hands were tied. "Adults can leave on their own," the officer said flatly. But something about it wasn't right. So I started digging. First stop, Olivia's office. She worked at an art gallery in downtown Atlanta. Her boss, Janet, seemed tense when I asked about Olivia. "She emailed us saying she needed time off. Something personal," Janet said. "When?" I asked. "About a week ago." That didn't make sense. A week ago, Olivia and I were planning a weekend trip together. "Did she come in to drop off a note?" Janet shook her head. "It was all online. From her work email. But the writing felt off. Short. Cold." I asked for a copy. She hesitated, then printed it. I looked at it closely. It didn't sound like her. It didn't even use her usual sign-off. My gut said Daniel was behind it. So I started watching. I drove past Daniel's place. I knew the area, Buckhead, high-end, gated community. His house sat behind thick hedges and a black iron gate. But one night, around 2 a.m., I saw a shadow on the second floor. And I swear, it looked like Olivia. Hair up, pacing, like she was on the phone. I couldn't be sure. It was quick. And it could have been anyone. But I needed to know. I contacted a private investigator. Not cheap, but worth every dollar. He set up surveillance. He watched Daniel's home, tracked his movements. Then one day, he called me. "You need to see this." He showed me footage. Daniel leaving his house, alone. But a few minutes later, a woman appeared at the second-floor window. She opened it, looked out, then quickly shut it. It was Olivia. She was alive. And she was inside Daniel's house. But why? Was she being held? Or worse, was she staying there willingly? The questions spun around my head. I wanted to confront her. I wanted answers. But I knew I had to be careful. If she was in danger, I couldn't risk scaring her off. So I waited. Until the night Olivia finally made a move. She left the window cracked. And the next morning, there was a note taped to the PI's hidden camera. 4 words scrawled in black ink. "Don't trust the police." I stared at those 4 words. Don't trust the police. It hit like a brick to the chest. Olivia was in danger, real danger. And whatever Daniel was doing to keep her there, he was doing it under the radar. No bruises, no threats on paper. Just silence, isolation, control. I showed the note to the PI. He nodded slowly. She's trying to get out, but she can't. That window crack? It's a signal. I asked him. Can you get her out? He shook his head. Not without risking her. He's too smart. He's watching everything. I went back to Olivia's apartment, sat there alone for hours, thinking. I had done everything right. Reported it. Collected evidence. Hired help. And still, she was trapped. That's when it hit me. If the law wouldn't do anything, I would. I started planning. I knew Daniel's routines from the surveillance. When he left, when he returned, when the house was empty. I waited for the right night. Then it came. 9:20 p.m. His black Lexus pulled out of the driveway. According to our PI, he usually stayed out for 2 hours on Thursdays. I parked around the block, dressed in all black. Not to break in, but to make sure Olivia got out. I had to be close, just in case. The PI was already nearby, keeping eyes on the street. At 10:15 p.m., the same second-floor window slowly creaked open. A sheet dropped to the ground. A signal. Then Olivia appeared, climbing out. Her hands shook. She made it down and bolted across the lawn. I rushed from the bushes, caught her in my arms. Go! Now! The PI shouted. We ran to the car, sped off, and didn't stop until we were an hour out of the city. Only when we reached the motel did Olivia speak. He changed after we broke up, she said, her voice trembling. At first it was texts. Then calls. Then threats. I went to his place once to tell him to stop. He locked the door. Took my phone. Said if I told anyone, he'd ruin me. He had pictures, videos. I didn't even know he had taken them. He hacked everything. I clenched my fists. I wanted to destroy him. But Olivia looked at me with tired eyes. We need to do it smart. So we did. We gave everything to a tech-savvy friend of hers, Alan. He worked in cybersecurity. He dug into Daniel's cloud backups, emails, private folders. We found everything. Screenshots, chat logs, hidden camera files, even manipulation of the email she sent to her boss. With the PI's footage, Olivia's statement, and Alan's data, we handed it all to a lawyer and the media at the same time. When the story hit the news, it exploded. Daniel's face was everywhere. The gallery where Olivia worked got calls of support. Women from Daniel's past came forward. But that wasn't enough for me. I leaked one more thing. A video Daniel recorded, of himself, drunk, bragging to his friend about how easy it was to keep Olivia where she belonged, and how no one would believe a pretty face who screamed too late. He said it laughing. The internet didn't. He lost everything. Career. Reputation. His house was vandalized. Sponsors dropped him. He was arrested 2 days later. At his trial, he pled not guilty. Tried to blame Olivia. But the evidence crushed him. He got 10 years. I thought it would feel like peace. But here's the thing no one tells you. When someone's been hurt that bad, revenge doesn't fix it. It just stops the bleeding. Olivia never fully came back to who she was before him. She tried. Therapy, support, time. But some damage goes too deep. And me? I wasn't perfect either. I'd ignored red flags when Olivia hinted that Daniel was still lingering. I thought I could protect her with love alone. Sometimes, love isn't enough. I'm not proud of how far I had to go. But I'd do it again if I had to. Because when the system turns its back on you, you either stay quiet, or you make sure no one else ever has to. And Olivia? She's free. That's what matters.